All right. Oh, yes. Dr. Slick, you are in the house.
What it do, nephew?
Woo! You know, I thought I was taking it to the next level with my tie.
I got my African medallion on today, baby. You know I'm doing the most. Some extra. Dr. Marcus.
Yeah. Oh, look at all of that. Look at all of that goodness.
Hello, my favorite humans.
Hey.
Bro, we got the tie, we got the Cubavera, it's going down.
Hey.
And it looks like Collaboration and Haley are also with us today. Great to see you two. You're a little underdressed. I am Anthony Moseley, Collaboration's artistic director, and don't you forget it.
Yes. And I'm Dr. Marcus Robinson, Collaboration's executive director. So glad to be here with you tonight.
I am Nicole Brooks, aka Dr. Slick, she, her, hers, they, them, Taurus season, and I am Collaboration's associate artistic director.
Welcome to Crucial Connections, our weekly online and interactive program to make sure that we stay connected and are building together, dismantling oppression and inequity of all sorts while we shelter in place during this unique moment in humanity.
Up to 90 guests will be able to join us here in the Zoom conference, and you'll be able to share your thoughts and your questions by signing up for a ticket in advance, while others can watch a live stream on Facebook, YouTube Live, and Twitch.
I want to thank and welcome everybody for joining us in the Zoom. Hello. Luca, our amazing artistic intern, is going to be moderating the chat, and he's going to be looking for people that want to come on camera and ask each of our interviewees a question. Yeah. So be bold, make sure your lights are on and your mic and your camera are on, and maybe think of a question for Sammy or Deb. We'd love to see your face and invite you into this program, which is made possible partly by the support of our sponsors, the Joseph and Bessie Feinberg Foundation, the Mark and Jeannie Malnati Foundation, AV Chicago, and individuals like you who are donating nickels and dimes and quarters at collaboration.org. And we also have a monthly campaign where you can give as little as $5 a month to help keep Collaboration afloat. Next week, we're going to be announcing a new fundraising campaign that will take us through the end of the calendar year and ensure that Collaboration is here to help all of us make it through this very difficult time, still bringing equity, peace, love, and hope to the forefront of our work.
Yeah, so glad we're here. On this week's show, we will be exploring the art of transformation with our guest, Sammy Rangel. He's the executive director of Life After Hate. He'll be our Act 1 guest, and will be followed up on Act 2 with Deb Beroset of Moxie Creative and Consulting. She'll be here with us in Act 2 to talk about transformation beyond this pandemic moment.
And we have a halftime show. Yes, we do. Tonight's show will be from Luis Tubens, AKA, also known as in these streets, the illest, most deafest spoken word artist, Logan Lu.
And then our Together Portal submission of the week is from Collaboration Company member and legendary Chicago artist and poet, carpenter, painter. He's a trade of all jacks, that's for sure. The one and only John Wilson has submitted an amazing piece about the Chicago flag that he made in his house with his roommates. That's our Together Portal submission of the week. And if you want to submit a piece that maybe we'll get on this show and then be pumped through our social media to bring joy, laughter, and insight to people around the globe, you can go to collaboration.org and submit a piece of video or writing. Last week we had the Fire Keeper, and we would love to see what's going through your heart right now. So please consider submitting. Well, but first up, it's time for Sammy Rangel to join us. Sammy Rangel is really a living, breathing metaphor and example for change and transformation and hope. His life story, one day, hopefully it'll be on a big screen somewhere and I could sit next to him on opening night and hold his hand and give him a big hug, or maybe just in the same row, maybe in the row behind him, and I'll be going like this. His story is incredible. He overcame abuse and neglect as a child to be an international leader at the forefront of helping people walk away from extremism and hate. After being involved in gang life in Chicago and prison life in Wisconsin, he got his master's in social work. He founded Formers Anonymous, which is an incredible group, and now he is the executive director of Life After Hate. Along the way, Sammy made a TED Talk about his story called The Power of Forgiveness. And it's both, it's touching, it's horrific, it's beautiful, it's so complex. And Sammy went on to then take his story, which he shares in that TED Talk to a certain degree. He also put that into a book called Four Bears that you can get. And then he turned it into a play, and my wife, Collaboration Company member Sandra Delgado, worked with Sammy to stage that piece, which he then went on to perform in 2018 at the Goodman Theater in our Peace Book Festival in front of his two lovely daughters. And now he joins us here on Crucial Connections. Sammy, it's great to see you. I know you do a lot of Zoom stuff. You're normally traveling around the world in an airplane, and now you're doing it on your computer. Good to see you, brother. Thanks for taking time for us.
God, man, I told you earlier, man, I wish I could hug you guys right now, man. I miss you guys. You know, you're a big part of my family, a big part of my life, and I'm inspired by what you do.
Oh, likewise. You know, I feel like our relation is one of those where we give each other more than we take. And at the same time, I know you've changed me forever. And here we are, you know, it's 2020. We've been in the midst of a real interesting narrative, to say the least, as far as the power balance between love and hate in this country. We've seen hatred and white supremacy raised to new levels of visibility and just vitriol. We now find ourselves in a pandemic where everybody, as Phenom, who was on our show 2 weeks ago, everybody has PTSD now, you know, and the lines are being drawn again. We've lost another Black life to senseless violence that was captured on a cell phone and has been shown around the world once again. What can you tell us, being the executive director of Life After Hate? I want to just start by getting your perspective on, you know, what's happening now. What are the trends that you're seeing, and what kind of work are you doing to help somebody who realizes that they've gone too far into a life of hate, and they're looking to walk down that plank?
Well, first of all, thanks, for that, and for telling important stories, because like us, I think the one thing we certainly do have in common is that we're trying to introduce a narrative in a time where dialogue has really become next to impossible to have, right? And so trying to find safe ways to introduce these topics and potential solutions, man. And you asked about the trends that we're seeing right now. It's really, I think, it's a sad time to see these hate groups from what we call the violent far right, domestic terrorism born here in the US. Racially motivated, politically motivated, and then sprinkled with some religious stuff in there as well. And what we're seeing is like this attempt to kind of capitalize on this pandemic to push vulnerable communities to a tipping point. It could be I've seen some information come across my desk where they want to go to vulnerable communities and just shoot, fire guns off in the community, not at anyone in particular, but knowing that that triggers a response, and that triggers anxiety, and that triggers, panic and fear, right? And trying to introduce these things. They call it accelerism, and I'm giving a really basic introduction to that, and it's how do we speed up the process to push these communities to a tipping point? Also, how do we weaponize COVID-19, in order to use against these masses? And targeting Black and Hispanic impoverished communities, right? It's pretty silly, and to think that we would use something that is making everyone vulnerable and try to use that as a way to push vulnerabilities even further, to exploit these vulnerabilities, to overwhelm these communities with these vulnerabilities. That's what we're kind of seeing right now. And of course, this happens primarily through, avenues like the internet, which are used as vehicles for delivering this hate at the speed of light, right? Like what used to take months and years, you can now binge over a weekend, right, and consume all of that. And so they're able to even trigger and recruit in much quicker ways and methods, and even be able to reach audiences that were, exempt, because, you might be doing your job and keeping your kid out of these bad neighborhoods from these bad crowds. But when it comes to the online portion of it, we're all exposed and we're all vulnerable, and it can look innocent enough, right? I think the other trend is that it doesn't start with racism. Their talking point is not about racism, or there's not even racist views. It might be a shared concern. It might be a shared grievance. It might be something like COVID. Like here's something that is being what would I call it, like exploited, right? In a way that's it's not a natural correlation, but they've made it one, and it's become like a culture war, which is really code for like a race war. That's become a component of this race war that they want to see, and that they promote and profess is coming and is inevitable. And so most people don't even know that they're being groomed. And by the time they realize it, it's often, too little, too late. And many, many times they find it difficult to be able to turn back at a certain point.
So correct me if I'm wrong. Thank you for all of that. I also think about the race riot of 1919, where Irishmen in Chicago were caught putting shoe polish on their faces and lighting garages in the Irish neighborhood, and so that their fellow Irish folks would see them and say, a bunch of Black people came and burnt down this garage, let's go burn down their neighborhood. And that's what they did. Over 1,000 homes were burnt down to the ground in Black neighborhoods in the race riot. So correct me if I'm wrong, though. The Obama administration approved a large federal grant for Life After Hate to specifically create online platforms to help intervene with people who might be getting pulled down the rabbit hole of hate. And then that grant was taken away by the new administration, and you have been working hard to continue that work and fill in the blanks of that story a little bit, and then tell us, what happens today if somebody calls up and says, hey, I've gone too far, I need help.
We back in 2016 were awarded just under $500,000 to do this work that we're doing now, to combat violent extremism from the violent far right, to help stop acts of domestic terrorists and mass atrocities and hate crimes here in the U.S. as it pertains to white supremacy. And then under this administration, the public notice was that we no longer met the new criteria, but and it really became a law enforcement approach rather than a combined, like multidisciplinary approach to the issue, which is really important. You can't just have a law enforcement incentive. You have to have community. In fact, I would say community has to come first, because we're the ones that are informing a lot of the processes after that, after our arrival, right? We're the ones boots on the ground. However, it was almost the best thing that could have happened to us. One, it woke up the country to realize that this issue is much bigger than what the administration can fix. I've always said that we can't rely on government and law enforcement to solve what's going on in our neighborhoods. We have to take ownership and control of those initiatives. And I honestly want to be in charge of that. I don't want to leave my future or fate to anyone else. If I'm living there, I want to be the one who has a voice in that process. I don't want to just be a part of the movement without having a say or a part in it. Today, though, in the last 2 years, Anthony, we have grown from one stipend part-time position to 12 staff. 5 of those staff are concentrated on doing direct services and outreach through our Exit USA program. For the first time, we have a director of development who's helping us, do the work that's important to keep the lights on and the services flowing. We basically, this was started by what we call formers, other men and women who were once a part of hate groups in the past, such as myself. And we've given that control up to partnering with people who are academics and professionals and accountants and think tanks. We've brought in all of that, man, because we know that we couldn't do it alone, right? And we needed to help. So I think that is a worthy mention, because it shows that we're starting to realize how we need to integrate with our communities to have the best effect, right? Knowing good partners. Once we have those services in place like we do now, people are able to come to us. They're able to get partnered with a mental health provider who we've trained and leveled up in, because there is no special education or training programs out there for working with men and women from these populations. There's plenty of programs for gang intervention, there's plenty of programs for drug and alcohol or sex offenses, whatever, but there is nothing to help people deal with white supremacy, right? And so most people don't know what to do when that's the main reason somebody's coming to see you, right? So we're teaching professionals across the country how to engage in this space after they've learned how to identify what's happening in this space, right? And so now these people are able to come in and get the services that are competent, that are compassionate, that are empathic, but that also drive healthy boundaries, limits, and accountability as well, right? Like you do have to answer for what you've done. And oftentimes it's a personal process that you have to go through. That's what we would call de-radicalization, right? We're helping people break from that hateful ideology and change that into being able to, 1, work on yourself, 2, give back to your community, and 3, live a peaceful life, and blending, integrating with your community fully, not just stopping the hate and then, blending back into obscurity, but giving back. We owe that. We're big on the service that we owe the communities. And so we push people that at their own speed, when you're ready, the anonymity has to give way for transparency. And in order to have true healing, you have to have dialogue in order to get to that point of reconciliation.
Wow.
Without that dialogue, you can't really heal.
I mean, just, as you sit here and talk to me and the world so eloquently and intelligently about these super complex things that you are on the frontier of, like you said, they're not training people how to deal with white supremacists. To then think about your life as a young child and running away and being in a gang and eventually being on segregation in the basement of a Supermax in Wisconsin. When you meditate, you must just be like, what? your subconscious must be like, this was a ride. Your spirit's been in many bodies, but never one like this before. How are you able to take that in at all, or are you just in the middle of it? I mean, how do you find time to reflect and take in the incredible journey that you are in the middle of?
I'm saying this with all sincerity. I have to lay the success that I have had towards my own insights, my own development and growth, my professional development, at the feet of the people who I've surrounded myself with, who saw beyond the symptoms of my problems and saw the person that I could be inside, even before I could see it. I'm taking that same, at Life After Hate and all the other initiatives I've been involved in over the years, we take that same stance when it comes to serving and standing with the condemned, standing with what we would think are incorrigible groups or populations, you know, like everyone who's been written off in this situation or in this lifestyle, we stand with them because I was written off, you know, and for good reason. I don't want to sound like I ever felt like I was innocent. Like I gave very little choice to a lot of the systems that dealt with me, but at the same time, I'm also a product of those systems. And so I have to take ownership for my part. The systems have to take ownership for their part. And when we facilitate that process, I think examples like mine become commonplace rather than rarities, right? So when we have the ability to forgive and to be forgiving as a country, as an institution, as a person, that allows for love. That allows for me to become loving again. It allows me to be able to put down what I think are strengths for real strengths, such as being able to be open about my past, be willing and courageous in going down that path, and then ultimately my commitment to that path, right? Which for me is really, like in my Formers Anonymous program, stems from 3 pillars: forgiveness, reconciliation, and ultimately what the community will award me through that process is my redemption.
Wow.
And I think as a person who has come so far, I'm not the only one who can do this if we could just as a community stay hopeful about a person's capacity to change.
If there's anyone in our Zoom room who wants to ask Sammy a question, be brave. Sammy is. We would love to have you come on. Just tell Luca in the chat. In the meantime, Dr. Slick, Dr. Marcus Robinson, do either of you have a question for Sammy Rangel?
Sure, I'll go. Is that okay with you, Dr. Marcus?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right on, right on. Sammy, it's just so refreshing and beautiful to hear you. Thank you for sharing your story. I would like to know, under the spirit of forgiveness, and especially forgive yourself, if you could go back to your 23-year-old self, knowing what you know right now, what would you say?
Take your time, Sammy. Her questions are so good.
Obviously. If I was somebody I could listen to, I would have to tell myself that I'm better than this. I honestly thought that was the life for me. I really didn't see a way out. There was no hope. There was no plan for a future. And I thought I was justified in every position and stance I had because of what I had experienced and what had been done to me. I didn't realize that I had other choices I could make. It's not like I didn't know right from wrong, but I thought that the life I was living was the only option I had in those 2 choices. So there was no creativity, and there was really no support to be much more than what I was at that time. But there was plenty of support to remain the same.
Awesome. You are worth it. It looks like Antoine Ramon has a question. Let's bring him on. Our first ever question, Antoine, I hope your lights are on, your camera's on, your mic's on. We're doing what's known as a risky move on the Zoom, and we're going to bring you in to ask a question of Sammy.
Well,
There he is.
Hello.
Welcome to Crucial Connections, Antoine.
Thank you.
Well-
First time viewer, first time listener, and I am totally in.
Thank you for joining. What's your question?
So my question for you, Sammy, is what little I know about, I want to say I like how you reference it to a life. I think it's a life of violence. I think that's a wonderful umbrella and grouping for what that is. And it expanded my understanding and even my assumption of what that could be. Because when I first read that in the description, I assumed the guest might be white. So thank you for shattering that assumption for me. But my question for you is, having been in a life of violence, what was the hardest thing about removing yourself from that community that you probably had incredible roots and ties to? What was that like for you?
That's a great question. The hardest part for me, to be straightforward and honest, was believing that there was a world waiting for me that would accept me. I had a us versus them mentality and lifestyle for so long. I honestly did not feel that I would be able to transition. And to my surprise, because I was raised and my own experiences taught me that all white people were racist, and I had experiences that reinforced that. Like, I survived an actual race riot at the age of 17 in Menard Correctional Institution back in 1992 when I was 17 years old. And that reinforced all the other beliefs I had ever been raised with and it proved to me that it was us versus them. And that there were never any good people in that space. Never good people that were cops, never good people that were politicians, and never good people that were white. And I didn't go into prison with those beliefs. They were just kind of reinforced through what I witnessed and experienced in that race riot. And so when I was being asked to contemplate potential change, the hardest part for me was to believe that there would be a place for me. I would have never anticipated that I would have the kind of love and support from all types and every sectors. Like, some of my best friends are federal law enforcement and politicians, people like Collaboration and all the different people I've met in there. I'm the lead, actor right now in an organization combating white supremacists. I'm the only former who is not a white supremacist. But, that just is an example that, when you're genuine and you surround yourself with genuine people, just about anything is possible. But I would not have guessed that. I took it on a gamble. I risked everything. I gave up all the power. I gave up all the money. I gave up all the glamour. I gave up the image, which was extremely difficult to let go. I had spent a lifetime building that image, if for no other reason than to protect myself. And letting that go meant giving away what I felt was my security in life. And to be honest, it was the best decision I ever made.
Hey, we wouldn't be brothers if it hadn't happened. You wouldn't be on the show. And I like your image a lot right now. And I know, because I was at the UNESCO Medal of Hope Awards when Forrest Whitaker gave you an award, and you went up to the podium and shared your story with a bunch of dignitaries.
It was surreal.
Yeah. And so, keep following your heart, man. It's definitely been on a roll this last decade and a half. And I want to just thank you for joining us and sharing your insights. And I look forward to the next chapter of our relationship. Let's give it up for Sammy Rangel, huh? And the Academy Award for the best crucial connections. He cried, he laughed, he was a doctor. He healed white supremacy. And he looks like the Hulk. Oh my gosh. And by the way, Sammy, how much weight can you lift right now?
I can deadlift about 550 pounds. I can bench press about 400.
So, thank you for joining us, brother.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you to everyone.
And how are things in Wisconsin now that the restrictions have been lifted? How do you feel about it? What's it like?
First of all, let me tell you, the restrictions weren't lifted because it's safe to go outside. It was hurting someone's bottom line. And I mean, I honestly feel that we're all going to be sacrificed for that bottom line, which is not new. This is not new, and people, don't understand that the risks have not diminished. In fact, yesterday we were the 8th fastest growing city in the country for COVID, new COVID cases. And on that same day that we were listed, we went from 10 to 8. They lifted the restrictions.
Wow.
And 40% of Latinos and 40% of African Americans make up all the COVID cases in Racine, in the city of 80,000 people. So wow. That decision was, in my opinion, was not made with the interests of our people. And this is a part of, how we exploit this pandemic for the benefit of others, man. And it's a sad day for me. It's a sad day for me here in Racine and in Wisconsin.
Well, let's end it on a happy note.
Yeah.
We're alive, and we have our work cut out for us. And I sleep better knowing there's guys like you out there. Thank you, Sammy.
You're welcome. Goodbye, everybody.
So glad to have you, Sammy. How wonderful is that, huh?
Wow.
Woo, so fantastic. All right, y'all. Now, y'all know I'm a peace-loving person, but I'm getting ready to clobber everybody.
Yeah.
Because it is time for our halftime performance. Put your Mickey Ficky hands together for Bulls Win by the exquisite Luis Tubens. Logan Lu.
What's going on out there?
We're so happy to have you. Please.
Yeah. Thank y'all. I want to say thank you to Sammy. Those were very inspirational stories. Much love, brother. And thank you to Collaboration for the love and for asking me to join on this halftime show. So I got the Bulls gears on. That's not just because of The Last Dance. But this poem that I'm about to spit is based on the memories of people that were celebrating during the Bulls championships in 1991. Bulls win! Bulls win! Bulls win! The whole hood was celebrating. The city turned into a volcano. The joy was a lava, melting into every apartment, oozing onto the streets, flowing into the soul. Bulls win! Bulls win! The lava was fireworks sprouting toward the sky. Bulls win! The lava was the celebration of the years of hurt, boiling underneath the earth, ready to rain down on the police. June 1991. The start of the deadliest decade in Chicago. The hot was heavy. The humidity trapped the smell of gun smoke in the air. 600 murders every year, and at least a few were for a pair of Jordans. The gangs controlled the corners with their colors and symbols, while CPD controlled the streets with uniforms and badges, hunting us like the heat, suffocating like the humidity. The 12th of June, 1991, Game 5. Bulls versus Lakers. Air versus Magic. The city was calm. The Windy City was still. 3, 2, 1. First You heard the booms and crackles of fireworks exploding with the excitement of car horns, followed by the stampede of the city. It was a riot. It was a release. The police cars were on fire and overturned. Bulls win! This for the decades of invading our hood. Bulls win for the times they searched and spat on you. Bulls win with their revolvers aimed at your head. Press so hard against your temple, leaving an imprint on your skin. The morning of the 13th of June, 1991. The sunlight danced off the shards of glass. Dried blood colored the concrete. A violent silence breezed through the half-court alleys. For just a couple of hours, we all won.
Bulls win!
Yeah.
Simply one of the best we got. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank y'all.
Beautiful piece of work. Beautiful piece of work. I'm loving that, Logan Lu, coming on the heels of that incredibly deep conversation that we had with our man Sammy Rangel, really getting at the heart of the matter. And our next guest we're gonna come in. We're gonna deepen this conversation into the heart of the matter of belonging to each other, of caring for each other, of being connected to one another. So our next guest is going to be Deb Beroset. She is a consultant with Moxie Unlimited. Her work really is around creating new brand messages, meanings, the whole reinvention of an individual or a company or even a community. And I met Deb at one of her gatherings. A mutual friend of ours put us together and says, you've got to meet this woman. So she throws one of these little parties, this community gatherings at her space called a Soul Jam. And I had to show up just to see what this is all about. Because after, I had a chance to meet Deb, and we found out that we had traversed the same patterns of journey in life, meeting some of the same people, doing some of the same work, making a huge difference in the world. So it was like very, very exciting. So I couldn't wait to get and be in the same room with her. And so Soul Jam was that space, and she brought us all together. And so I invited her in tonight to be with us, so to bring us all together in a bit of a virtual Soul Jam, if you will, where we get to hear what's in your heart and what you now see is possible for us as humans, possible for us as belonging, and how do we connect across these platforms and technology. So welcome, Deb. How you doing tonight?
I am great. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on. And boy, that first conversation was so powerful. You kind of messed up my eye makeup a little bit, but I tried to get it together.
Hi, Deb. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you.
So what about this business about staying connected to others as we shelter in place, stay home, and try to get through this universal experience that we're all going through? What are you seeing about that? What insights have emerged in your stay home experience, and how's that changed the work that you're doing?
Well, it's really interesting. The soul jams that you referred to, Marcus, they actually came out of my own soul's longing for something. I live here in Chicago. It's a big city. We're surrounded by people, but I myself felt like, my husband and I, that's awesome. And I craved more connection with other human beings, and not just being around people, but real connection. Yeah. And so the Soul Jams actually came as an experiment, like a desire to bring people together and see, okay, how can we get past kind of traditional small talk and have that kind of delicious conversation that has everybody feel more alive. So that's how that started. And once I got into it, I started doing a little research because I was a journalist in a past life. So that's kind of, I'm a research geek, right? So I started doing some research on this whole loneliness thing, and I learned, how did I not know that there's actually an epidemic of loneliness in the world, documented, and that it's also a health hazard, right? It's more of a health hazard than smoking, or it's about the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day to our health.
Wow.
Yeah, which I was shocked by. So, fast forward, along comes this thing called a pandemic, right? And all of a sudden, it's like a topic of converse, like we are all feeling very acutely this sense of isolation in different ways.
Yeah.
And so what I've been thinking about and talking to people about is the fact that, just because we can't leave or choose not to leave our home doesn't mean we can't be transported. And what's transporting to us in the human spirit is when we have a really juicy conversation with another human being. And so, everybody's zooming all the time, right? And this very show is testament to the fact that a Zoom conversation can be every bit as impactful and soul touching as an in-person conversation. And it's a function of the conversation. And it's a function of the questions that we ask each other and the leaning in and the curiosity versus physical proximity. I mean, I'm as big on physical proximity as anybody, but nobody can tell me that conversation you had just a minute ago was not a rich conversation.
Yeah.
Right? So I think as we all get on Zoom calls with coworkers and family members, I think what has them feel a little lacking is that we don't bring curiosity to the Zoom call. Like, it's more about, oh yeah, there you are, I've missed you, how are you doing, right? But we don't, it makes such a difference if we come to that interaction, whether it's virtual or in person, with a sense of curiosity, like, I want to discover something about you I've never known before. I want to hear something about your experience of life that I had no idea about. And when that happens, all of a sudden, the format and the medium become less relevant. And what's really important is the co-created discovery process between human beings.
So it's the curiosity and discovering something new that brings about that level of intimacy and connection that allows you to have that deeper experience, even in a virtual space. So I want to make sure we actually get some people who are in the Zoom room actually interacting with you in some way. So I want to see the thing with a question. And that's a question I'll ask you to generate as you sit there listening to me talk for a moment. Because I'd love for you to ask a simple Soul Jam-esque question that's easily answered in an environment like this one, that would allow us to connect to one or two of the participants at a level that ordinarily you wouldn't get in a so-called webinar, and that'll be an opportunity to engage Nicole and Anthony in the dialogue with us. So we spend the next several minutes engaging that question. So I wonder if something's come to mind.
Well, I just happen to have my Soul Jam cards that I've gotten all fancy since the last one you attended. I got cards printed up just in time for the pandemic, right?
Right.
So this is my first chance to actually use these. So I'm going to pick a card, all right?
Anyone will do.
All right, so here's one. What's a talent of yours you've been ignoring?
Ooh.
Right? What's a talent of yours you've been ignoring? See, how often do you get asked that?
I was going to say being quiet, but it's not
Not quite a talent yet. Not quite a home talent yet. Okay. That's a very good question. I wonder if somebody's out there in the audience that wants to come on and deal with that. So For you folks monitoring could watch that for us, and I wonder what talent that Nicole has been neglecting or setting aside.
I'm a very good cook. And cooking brings me joy, but I find that I really only enjoy cooking for other people. So when it comes to, when it comes to just like making meals for me, I make them okay, but I'm just like, but like, if I really spent more time in the kitchen and really even baked more, which is something I also ignore, my goodness, that is such a fabulous question.
Well, I'm gonna follow up on that with a little something. I do a program called Soul Care, and what I would say to you is, what if you were to treat yourself as a guest of honor in your own life? Right? Right.
You're gonna make me shake my hair right off. Yes.
What would that look like?
Let's see.
How would your experience of a meal be different if you treated yourself like someone you loved and adored and who deserved some radical self-reverence?
I mean, that does bring me close to the question I wanted to ask, if that's all right.
Yeah, go.
I'm looking at your beautiful environment. It's just like, okay, but
it's like the Pillow Palace, right?
Oh, it's the Pillow Palace, and then you've got the, you know what I'm saying, you got the plants over there going and popping. Everything is just beautiful. So I guess my question is, thank you. My question for you is, I guess, how do we create or reimagine our environments?
Ooh.
Yeah,
I love that. So actually, my calling in life overall is that people experience beauty, and not just beauty as in the typical sense of aesthetic beauty, but beauty as in exaltation of the spirit. So in terms of environments, I'm so glad you asked this, because I am all about creating an environment. And this goes back to what I said a second ago about being the guest of honor in your own life, right? What if you looked at creating an environment, not in terms of, oh, what looks good and what color is everybody doing this year, but in terms of what exalts your spirit? What makes you feel awesome? What makes you feel like your best, highest self? What brings out your creativity? And so my style has morphed over the years. And the last couple years, I've gone all kind of boho jungalo, and that's what does it for me. And Chris likes it too, so we're good, And I think we're all meant to evolve and change, and we get stuck with furniture and art and stuff that was from some former self, and we forget, it's not just about, quote, redecorating. It's about having your environment call you to be, and call you to be as the person you are now and the person you're evolving into versus who you were 10 years ago.
Yeah, got it. Beautiful.
Something's going on over there. I can see light bulbs going off. Like,
well, I was writing down some of what you were saying, but I really do love be the guest of honor of your own life. I think that during this shelter in time, we're all learning some stuff about ourselves. And I think what I'm trying to embrace is perhaps no apology for wanting to create an environment that is nutritious to my soul. You know what I mean? So I think what I'm going through is, hey, it's okay to have 87 million pillows on your bed right now. And that is the thing that is making you feel safe. And I know that that might sound surface or vapid to some, but you know, this is my experience and this is what I'm going through. But I find myself wanting to be more present with me. Whereas I think I was used to just kind of running around. Okay, I'm gonna put out that fire. Okay, I'm gonna solve that problem. Okay, I'm gonna write that poem and it's gonna be great and we're all gonna be fine. And yeah. And now it's like, hey, you gotta go make breakfast. And that in recent weeks has felt like a great challenge. And shout out to, lovingly shouting out to people that are experiencing food insecurity and folks that don't have options. Do whatever you can to help somebody else. You feel me? So this is, make no mistake, this is not me saying I want some 5-star luxurious lifestyle. I'm not even talking about that. But I want to work harder at getting out of a life of survival versus be your own guest of honor. So that's what you see me over here. That's what you're witnessing.
I love that.
So I'm not seeing a bunch of little messages come to me like I want to get in. So I'm going to let my man Anthony have the last question, and I'll just wait and be surprised at what he says and how you respond.
I'll just come right after you, Marcus, first, and just confirm with Deb when you met Marcus Robinson, were you like, this is the Soul Jam poster boy? I mean, you know, that was his nickname in 8th grade. That's what they used to call him, Soul Jam Robinson. I mean, it's Michael Jordan is Space Jam and Marcus Robinson is Soul Jam. It's so great to meet you, and I totally get why you two connect with each other. I wanted to reflect something that you inspired in me, Deb, and take it from there. You know, talking about delicious conversations and curiosity. You know, it's something that I forgot, but I'm usually very aware of. Is just that this is an opportunity to talk to our elders and get their stories. And you know, we finally have the time to like talk to grandma and ask the questions that we didn't ask. And I wonder if you could reflect on those kind of discussions, one with loved ones and family, about the things that we might that if we don't talk about now, we might miss.
Yeah, that's really great. I read this thing recently that Malcolm Gladwell said that the central problem that most people have is that they don't know how they're interesting. And it really gets clear in conversations with other people, you know. So it's a gift to somebody if you're in a conversation with a family member, an elder, or, you know, let's not forget discovering who our young people are as well, right? Everybody. And so some things that you can keep in mind is we tend to, out of habit, ask questions about what happened and when did this happen? And it becomes kind of a timeline or, you know, a report. And the way into the really juicy stuff, the home cooked meal of conversation versus the fast food conversation, is to ask about the person's experience. Like, what was that like for you? Or if they say something and you sense there's some interesting, juicy gold behind that, to slow the conversation down and say, hold up, wait a second, tell me more about that. And what was that like? And what were you thinking about at that time? And what would you, like the question that was asked earlier of Sammy, you know, what would you go back and tell your young self if you could? I mean, that's a great question to ask anybody, really.
Deb, what would you tell your 23-year-old self?
Wow. Like, don't worry about picking the right thing to do, because you're going to do a lot of different things. Like, just don't sweat it. Just go with the current passion and run with it, because there's going to be another one that you're going to pick up on the way.
That's so amazing. So your life sounds a lot like mine. So and it's just so many different ways. So I'm very, very excited. Thank you so much for blessing us with some time this evening and sharing the wisdom and insight. Definitely gonna be become a student of questions as opposed
Great.
to
Thank you.
professor of answers. So yeah, that's I'm getting that from you, and and so there's lots of good work going on in the community. We want to always give a shout out to that. So as we say goodbye to you, could you please let people know where they can find your information? You already gone. We'll make sure we get your information up in the chat room. Somebody put up her website for her so that folks can know how to get in touch with her and what.
I know her Facebook is Moxie Creativity and Consulting, Moxie.
So thank you for that. Yeah, there you go. That man's got a steel trap over there under that skin. I'm gonna throw it back over here to my partner over here, J. Nicole, for that signal boost.
All right, humans, open your eyeballs and open your ears because it is time for our week's Signal Boost. And the Signal Boost is to spotlight people and groups who are doing great things to bring us together. And this week, the Signal Boost goes to 101 local theater companies that have banded together to sell this awesome shirt called Chicago Acts Together. This is a t-shirt, and it's not only beautifully designed, 100% of the proceeds of the sales are going to go to the Chicago Theater Workers Relief, a League of Chicago Theaters initiative that directly assists theater workers that have lost jobs as a result of COVID-19 and are facing financial security. So if you can, buy this t-shirt, Chicago Acts Together, and a city that acts together stays together. That's the spotlight.
Spotlight.
Much love to all our theater brothers and sisters out there. We know this is a tough time, but the Chicago theater community will rise again. It'll be a new and different thing, but just as deep, rich, powerful, authentic, and cool. Next week, we have another great show, episode 5. Wow. We'll have Nina Sanchez of Enrich Chicago, an expert in cultivating equity and inclusion. We'll also have GQ of the Q Brothers. My brother from another, one of the most creative and soulful and open-hearted cats you will ever meet. And the Q Brothers just released a new children's album. So if you want your kids to be smart and cool and progressive, get them rapping with the brothers of Q. And then Mud Life Rock, who's got a soft spot in the hearts of, I know, me and Dr. Marcus and Dr. Slick. He's going to be our halftime show. Willie Round from the West Side is an artist and a community activist and leader, and we got a lot of heart on the show once again next week. I can't wait.
Yeah. Every week's a great week, and so proud of the work that we're doing here together at Collaboration. So every week we'll finish our broadcast with content submitted by you, actually, through our Together Network portal at collaboration.org. You can go there, fill out the form, upload a video with your name, some information about what you want to do, and then we'll take a look at it. And we're picking the ringers. We're looking for the best ones, and if you got one of those, we'll definitely put it up. It could be writing, it could be art, it could be photography, it could be anything you want. Sing me a song. This week's featured submission comes from our company member, John Wilson. It's about the Chicago flag, so stay on for that. And then, as well as you'll definitely get a taste of this show that we produced called 17 to Life, which features next week's guest GQ and his collaborator Tyrone Taylor. It's a special video from our archives. I know you're gonna love it. So just thanks a lot for being here, and we're gonna put this one in the books.
We want to thank our fantastic sponsors. Thank you, thank you. And if y'all want to see more exquisite humans like you have on this programming, okay, please consider a donation of any amount at collaboration.org. That's collaboration.org. Or you can become a monthly contributor for as little as $5 a month, okay? We ain't too proud to beg. We will take a whole bunch of those. Get your whole household together. You can support us at collaboration.org.
That's right. So thank you all for joining. Stay tuned for John Wilson's tribute to the Chicago flag and 17 to New Life. My co-host, thank you for spending a little space time with me. Another great show, episode 4. Everyone have a great night, and we are connected.
Hi, I'm Chicago. This is my flag. Let's learn about it.
Took off the stars. The white parts of the flag represent the south, the west, and the north sides, and the blue parts represent Lake Michigan and the different waterways. Let's learn about what the stars mean. For you more!
The Great Chicago Fire of 1871.
Columbian Expedition of 1893.
And I am the Century of Progress Exposition 1933. Chicago, oh my home, sweet home. Chicago. And don't forget to buy your hot dog! Yeah!
Collaboration. Theater for social change in Chicago.
What was the year?
1993.
Your name?
The streets made me fly top.
I see. What time of year was it?
The beginning of winter.
State your name.
Atpal, first name Subinder. My friends called me Sue or sometimes Suvi. My mother told me Johnny Cash wrote a song about me. My Italian neighbors had kids who became friends with me. Their whole family got a real kick out of calling me Vinny.
Your father?
I'd say I want to see him, whiny hair. Mom would say, want to see your dad look in the mirror. I met him a couple times, that was it. He was finished. Anyone who knew him said I was his spitting image.
Location?
Queens, moved with my dad and mom. I was 10 years old when we left Pakistan. I always wanted to do something different than my dad. I mean, it's just so cliche. I'm from Pakistan, I drive a cab.
Schooling?
Private practice, moms would work about until they had enough of me and finally kicked me out. I swore it wasn't going to be for the rest of my life, but it was there and I needed to support my pregnant wife.
You were married?
Yes, it had been arranged. I know, Americans think that's completely insane. I would tend to agree, but I was best friends with Sana's brother, and growing up it was crystal clear we had always loved each other.
Married?
Hell no.
Single?
Hell no. Had this girl who always loved to give me hell though. Why you always hang with us? Why you such a deadbeat? He's grabbing, took me there to the street. I was really good. So when the robber became a profession, I copped me a piece in case I needed the protection. To lower our costs, we'd up and lease a cab together, so I shared one with Farouk. I had known him forever. We had this spot that was easy to park the car and central for both of us on Ditmars Boulevard. See, I was addicted, not to drugs, but I was sick. Instead of standing on corners, I go out and look for a Vic.
Vic, who is that? Your file here doesn't list him.
Figures everybody, anyone could be a victim. I was mad I ain't found one after coming this far. Before I headed back, I made a left on Didmar.
When Farouk met me for our routine switch, he was steaming mad. He was like super pissed, like, they might suspend my license. What am I gonna do now? So I decided to hang for a bit until it cooled down. Normally I go straight home as soon as I passed off the car, but anyone with a pregnant wife knows going straight home can be kind of hard. So you really can't blame me for wanting to chill out and kick it. We played cards in the back seat and listened to a match of cricket.
I had done this a bunch of times. My appetite had grown. Used to do this with my homie. Now I'm doing it all alone. The tape was all my tape. The pick, my pick. Well, not alone with my heavy metal sidekick.
I felt bad taking his money. He was already in a bad mood, but I'm like, fuck, I could use it. I'm about to be a dad, dude. Plus, I'm holding a royal flush, so I limp in and call him, and he totally falls for it. Farouk's like, I'm all in.
Maybe I should call it a night, go home and just chill. But I'm craving a high right now, so I'm like, fuck a buzzkill.
This dollar mile money in a pile is gonna be so great. Santa's gonna be happy that I'm coming home late.
Every time I thought I saw a decent possibility, it just wouldn't feel right. This back and forth was killing me.
My heart racing, you know that feeling that you get right before the outcome of a really big bet?
Getting anxious, heart beating. This wasn't just for kicks. Every addict knows this moment just before you get your fix.
First the flop,
then I turned, I was like,
ooh, this hand's hot.
That's when I saw
the river, boom, jackpot.
2 dudes window down, money out, I pulled the heat. I leaned in and grabbed the cash that was on the seat.
All I could see was my baby to be learning to say mama. But what if I'm not there to see? Oh my God, Sana,
give me everything else you got.
Farouk, what are you doing? That's what I thought I was saying, but my lips weren't even moving.
I said, give me all your shit. The fuck is up with this guy? He gets out the car, so I stand up to keep an eye.
Farouk gets out the car, and I'm just praying, please don't. If he shoots Farouk, I'm a witness. But if I can stop him, then he won't.
I focus on the guy outside, my gun pointed inside. That's when I see him reach for it out the corner of my eye.
That's when I go to grab it.
I see the mother of him reach.
I wanna scream, take this motherfucker.
Motherfucker's got a piece. I wish my dude was here with me right now. I need their help.
But I'm too there to say anything.
I'm scared and I'm all by myself.
Take this, just give us the
phone. I knew what happened.
Take it, give us the phone.
The sound of the shot drowned out what he said.
Why didn't I just go home?
Hole in his chest, blood pouring out. I tried to turn, but something wouldn't let me. I just wanted to send him a warning shot since he was out to get me. In the slowest motion, it leaves his grass spinning and falling. Oh God, no. It wasn't a gun. He was giving me his wallet.
17 to life.
Kept ringing in my ears.
17 to life.
Kept ringing in my ears. 17 to life kept ringing in my ears. I was only 17. New life took me 20 years. Could you forgive someone who killed someone you knew? Could you forgive someone who killed someone in your crew? Could you forgive someone who hurt you too? I don't know. What would you do? How do you give back to something that can never come back? I thank God every day that I have my freedom, my life, my family. I feel so blessed.
I wish Gabbies were required to wear a bulletproof vest.
I didn't mean to. It just happened.
A hole in my chest.
Can you forgive me?
Can you forgive him?
I mean...
Collaboration. Theater for Social Change in Chicago.
Hi, I'm Chicago. Hi, I'm Chicago.
Collaboration. Theater for Social Change in Chicago. Collaboration. Theater for Social Change in Chicago.